All right, so I've been a software guy. Like when I come to these conferences, I'm like, what? Who's this guy? Why should I listen to him? I've been a software guy since late 90s, Bitcoin since 2013. Been a community builder in the space, very passionate about governance and decentralized governance and how we're doing all that. And I've been lately, more recently, the managing director for the Foundation for Interwallet Operability. We're trying to make crypto easy to use. So you can kind of just have Luke at Stokes instead of a crazy address that's hard to remember. And I kind of took a break from all of this stuff. About 2 years ago, a little more than 2 years ago, I just want to hang out, want to wing foil. This is me in Jacama, Peru, toe foiling, and just hanging out with my 3 kids and my wife. And then this Morpheus project came along, and it really caught my attention. Even prior to Bitcoin, I was very excited about AI and where it's taking us. So this got my attention. Oh, there we go. So if you take 2 takeaways from this talk, it's hopefully you'll understand what is Morpheus. It's basically code, capital compute, and smart agents for the entire marketplace for all things AI. And then what is the More 20 Fair Launch? I thought this would be a more technical crowd than I think it is, but if you are working on a project or someone you know is working on a project and they want to tokenize it, please pay attention to that part. I think if you're launching a token at all in this upcoming bull market, you should do a More 20 in my opinion. It's a fair launch model that's phenomenal. So we'll talk about those 2 things. If you're like me, you come to these conferences, sometimes you just tune out the speaker and you just go right to the website. Feel free to do that. It's more.org. You can just, read about what's going on. Another cool one is morelord.com. So it looks like, I had text in here that looks like it went away, but this is morelord.com and more.org. Apparently the text has gone there. But so you can look at some of the tokenomics and everything that we got going on here. So I got into AI prior to crypto. I was looking at all this. I read Nick Boss from Superintelligence, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we are all going to die. This is scary. And then he'd be like, well, here's a solution. I'm like, oh, good, we're all saved. And then he's like, and here's why that won't work. I'm like, oh no, we're going to die again. So I've been very concerned about superintelligence and AI. At the time, there was a paper that was released that about 160 different experts or whatever it was, and they said 2046. That's when the singularity is coming. I'm like, okay, that's way in the future, no problem. If you've been paying attention, you know it's coming much faster than 2046. So this conversation's ramping up. A lot of the people that were early into Bitcoin are also early into AI. They kind of have an ability to see where their future's coming. They're convinced of it. Everyone else tells them they're crazy. And then eventually they're like, oh, wait, you were right the whole time. So we pay attention to those people as best we can. And then this time I do think it's different. Like we talked about the agricultural revolution or industrial revolution changing agriculture. 80% of the jobs go away. And people are like, well, it's just going to be like that. Well, maybe not. It's really impacting our ability as humans to provide value to other humans. This is different. It's going to impact everything. I've got 3 kids. We homeschool, and I'm trying to prepare them for a world that I can't even imagine. It's beyond what I can even imagine. So we got to think about this stuff. We got to be concerned how we do it. So what is Morpheus? Why does it matter? It's a peer-to-peer network for general purpose AI powered by the More token. It's private, open source, self-sovereign, uncensored. There was an anonymous white paper very similar to Bitcoin that just showed up. And a bunch of contributors started building it. There's no team, no foundation, no DAO, no nonprofit. It's literally just a bunch of open source contributors and repo maintainers. It uses something called atomic governance. Now, I love Sean and Polkadot and everything they got going on. The DAO model, like I said, I was building the DAC factory in 2018. I've been very passionate about governance. And I've come to the conclusion they basically don't work. You need amazing human beings. That's what you need. You need high quality people to make really good decisions in the best interest of themselves and the communities they support. And I've come to this conclusion through lots of painful scars. I could show you them. I was part of the Steam Hive takeover when billionaires come and took our blockchain. We as a community had to fight to get it back. I've seen a lot of that. And so what Morpheus is doing a little bit differently is called atomic governance. Most every open source project essentially does this. There's one repo maintainer, or maybe a few of them, that make the decision on what the protocol is. And they're the ones that decide which direction you're going. So there's not design by committee. There's not a lot of people trying to extract wealth if they can just politically maneuver themselves to be friends with the important people and all that. It's just someone makes a good decision that's the best interest of the community. And so that's what Morpheus has been doing. And so far, it's been working amazing. These are amazing people that you literally can't hire if you wanted to. And it's all based on this idea of unrestricted access to free intelligence. And of course, the More 20, which we'll talk about. So at its core, it's an aggregation layer. So we're working with all these different providers to provide decentralized access to all the things that you need if you're running a project that needs AI. It's also a smart agent aggregation layer. What we call smart agents is basically imagine a large language model, an AI model, that you kind of add additional software to get a certain goal done. And it's also web enabled, so it can actually make transactions for you on your behalf on your wallet. This is the website here, and these are the main buckets that we used our More 20 fair launch to launch Morpheus, using 24% goes to builders, to capital, to code, and compute. And what that does is it creates this really awesome environment. Oops, sorry, I hit that with my finger. Creates this awesome environment where you essentially close the loop. You want a service out there that's AI enabled, but it needs compute to run, and you need a commerce token to kind of power that whole thing. That's what Morpheus does. On our fair launch, we had over $500 million of staked Ethereum went into that. So you know that the smart contracts are secure if you're going to use the same contracts because they're open source. They've been proven out. Oh, can I get another click? There we go. These are the example, the OGs that are involved. These are, again, people you could not hire, but people that are excited about this project because the importance of AI and doing it right. Now let's talk about the fair launch model. So when I talk about $500 million came into this project, what I mean is people took their Ethereum, staked it to Lido, and then that 3 to 4% return they would normally get, they restaked that ST-ETH token into the project. You can do the same thing. All of these contracts, all the dashboards, all the staking tools, everything is completely open source. If you have a project and you say, okay, we need to raise a certain amount of dollars, what if instead of saying, give us your money and we'll hopefully do something valuable someday in the future, you say, keep your money. Stake your money. You would be making 3%, but instead, take that return and bring it to us. We'll use that to determine a fair launch price of the target token in 90 days, and then use that recurring revenue, which no other crypto project has, that continual money that's coming in to actually fund and support the token. I've been a part of a lot of crypto communities for over 12 years now, and often you get paid in a token that just goes to zero because everyone's got to pay rent, they got to pay their mortgage, and they just sell the token. Well, this revenue comes in as Ethereum, constantly buying up the token, burning the token, staking the token for the next epoch. So it's pretty exciting. And you can use this however you want. In the Morpheus example, we have code, capital, and compute, and the builders, but in your example, you could have maybe a cap table, maybe you could have a DAO, you could have a whatever community, whatever group needs to actually get tokens, you can design it however you want. And again, there's no principal capital risk, which is pretty exciting. The other part that's interesting is you can take your rewards and stake those as well. It's almost like your time preference becomes your hashing power. Like when you hash for Bitcoin, you're like, okay, bigger servers, more energy, I get more Bitcoin, pro rata, based on everyone else competing in this big game. This is designed in a similar way. I've staked my capital contributions for 6 years. I won't see them until 2030, and that gives me a 10.7 multiplier, which is pretty awesome. It also means that I'm kind of working for free. A lot of the people in this community are working for free in a sense that they're like, I'm not going to see my money. I think the average is 4 years on the code bucket last I checked. So these are people that, again, you couldn't hire that are passionate about what the project is doing. So if you've got a similar exciting project and you want to attract those kind of people, this might be the way to do it. These are just some examples of some of the data you can look at. And again, it's an open game that everyone's participating in. Who's staking, who's not, what's going on, how the rewards, are they staked, unstaked, all that. All this information's on chain. And then you can see the result. We're having over 400 participants, I forget what the latest number is, of people actually committing code, participating in a way that, again, you couldn't hire, which is pretty exciting. So we work with everyone. Lots of times people come up to me and say, hey, Morpheus is super cool. Well, how are they different than this? Or how are they different than that? Or what about this other competing, whatever? It's not really competing. We're just an open marketplace that's peer-to-peer, decentralized, and anonymous. Why is that important? Because let's say you're in a country that has a large language model they won't allow you to use because it says something bad about our dear leader. Well, instead, you can go to the Morpheus network and anonymously stake your Morpheus tokens, connect to an AI agent, and get answers to important questions. So it's pretty exciting. If you're doing anything in the AI space, you're basically a client and or vendor of what we've built. So definitely check it out. In some cases, you have things you haven't monetized yet that you can through Morpheus. These are the different epochs, but got about 30 seconds left, so I'm going to run through these quickly. Where we're at right now is right there, Serenity. Morpheus spreads across many chains and yield types. The builder bucket just went live recently. I've actually got this USB stick. Let's see where it went. Oh, it's in my pocket. I've got a stack of USB sticks over there. Brian, raise your hand, sitting over there. If you want all of the code that I'm talking about, it's literally on this USB stick. You can trust me, I've been in security for a long time. I understand most people say don't plug these in, or we can go to GitHub, you can check the MD5 hashes of the files. But everything I'm talking about is actually sitting on these drives right now. And you can run your own local AI, you can run your own local smart agent that can access everything you're doing right from your own computer, private, secure, self-centered, self-sovereign. It's pretty exciting. I'd love to talk to you more about it after. I'll be here all day. Thanks so much for listening.